Oh, I think I'm on. Hey everybody. You're not gonna believe what we got here tonight. You're gonna be so glad. I have zero. Oh, there it is. We have a special guest here tonight. I brought in an intellectual powerhouse, the ultimate authority. So tonight, we always talk about things. Well, tonight you're gonna get the expert in. His name is Parker Miley. Parker Miley is in the house tonight. So Parker and I are going to be tag teaming on this. So you will get the greatest outline of what's going on here. So Parker, say hello to your fans.
Hello.
Yeah.
8 o'clock family.
All right, cool. All right, so let's give some shout outs here tonight. Hey, Scott Moran, congratulations on being the first comment here tonight. Tina and Mike, haven't seen you guys forever. I hope you guys are doing well. Hey, Ange and Cheryl. Oh, Sherry, but no Sherry. Hi, Daryl. Hey, Suze. Doug and Margie, you're here. Good to see you guys. Hi, Linda. Dave Jessen, how you doing? Hi, Amy. And let's see, Susan, Linda, Tim and Candy in the house. Appreciate you guys coming out tonight. And here's a couple. Hi, Parker. You better say hi to your fans.
Hi.
Let Linda, Angie, and Dave have said hi to Parker. So, all right. Well, Parker is here tonight because he wants only the highest quality, most well thought out, most seasoned, scholarly approaches is all we accept here at Wayne Street. And Parker was concerned our standard was getting too low. So he is here tonight to make sure that I toe the line, and he was very concerned about that. So, all right. See, oh gosh,
I'm the best.
Parker's the best.
Thanks,
really, Amy? He's been on this screen for a minute and a half, and already he's the best. Whatever. I see how fast you guys turn on me. So when I get help here. So, all right. So Parker, you guys gonna win this weekend football game?
Yeah.
All right. So Parker says you're gonna win, and Parker's always right. So you guys can take that to the bank. And hey, Matt Clements, good to see you here, buddy. Appreciate you logging on. And Parker is, let's see, what can I ask you? What would you like to tell all your fans here? Anything? What's important to know about Parker Miley? Parker Miley is actually an authority on the breastplate of righteousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows a lot about that. Any of you who were in the community service on Wednesday know that Parker spoke very eloquently about that and talked about the shining in the sun and all that stuff, which I thought was very cool. So anybody who was at, why do we only have 11 people? Where is everybody? Does everybody know the weather's terrible outside?
They know I'm on.
Yeah. They're proud driving down here so they can be on here with you. So you guys, everybody give a shout out if you were in the live service on Sunday afternoon. Somebody tell me if you were there, because we had a pretty good crowd there for a while. I had a couple hundred people. And there was an article in the newspaper. I don't know if any of you saw it. The article in the newspaper wrote it up real well. So, all right. So, anything else?
That's me.
All right. That's
Expert
Parker.
on the breastplate of righteousness.
That's Parker. What's this? Tina and Mike. Yes, doing well now. Mike had a scare and was in the hospital with heart issues. Doing well now. Oh, Tina and Mike, we miss you guys. Hope you guys are feeling better. Didn't realize you guys were under the weather. So Angie Myers was there. I saw you and Jim there, Angie. Tim Dickey, Parker, good job at the community service. You were definitely the highlight. Now, you do remember I spoke too, right, Tim? Because I actually had a little something. Remember Mrs. Jackson and my good friend? Anybody remember that? Yeah, I worked really hard for that. All right, Parker was the highlight. Okay. All right. So, cool. All right, so reading the chapter. I actually miscounted the chapters. I thought the chapter was I thought we were entering the new section this week, and I found out the section, it's divided into 4 chapter sections instead of 3. So we still have 1 chapter left in the first section. So Pastor Tim spoke too. Mm-hmm. All right. So I see we got a feisty crowd here tonight. I'm liking that. Hi, Beth Reedy. Good to see you tonight. And all right. So we are on chapter 4, and I'm on page 25 if you got the book. If not, don't worry about it. But how many of you who read the book, he goes through in the very beginning, he has an example where he talks about a group of black-tailed squirrels that he watches outside of his window. And he said he was working on a Christmas message. And I was talking to Susan about that and said he was watching black-tailed squirrels running around while writing a Christmas message. I have never done that because when I'm writing Christmas messages, they're hibernating, and you don't see squirrels. So clearly he's writing in a warmer climate than I have. How many of you have ever been trying to work on something, trying to do something, and just ADD? Do you ever deal with that, Parker?
All the time.
All the time?
All the time.
Got something you gotta be doing and just can't get to it. I was talking to Parker right before we went online here about writing the sermon this week for Sunday. Sometimes that sermon about writes itself, but man, this week has been pulling teeth. 2 days I've sat watching that blinking cursor in Microsoft Word and just nothing. And I think Max was kind of getting to that, how he's been distracted by the squirrels outside of his window. But the analogy that he makes is he may enjoy watching those squirrels run around and do, I don't know, squirrel stuff. Do you know squirrel stuff? Collecting food and
chasing around trees.
Chasing trees stuff. Yeah, so they're doing squirrel stuff. And while it may be fun to watch and a great distraction, no one has ever looked at a squirrel and said, gosh, I'd like to be one of those. You ever want to be a squirrel, Parker?
Can't say I've ever wanted to be a squirrel.
No, so clearly Parker agrees. Squirrels are not something that we normally look at and think, gosh, I'd like to do that, or I'd like to be on that. And yet the analogy that Max makes is that that's exactly what God did. You ever think about that? So God was looking at the system, and he looked at we loaded people, and he said, I think I'm going to have to go be one of them. How many of you ever, I'd never thought of it that way before. I mean, we talked about that a little bit last week with the big step down that Jesus took to come into our situation. And he did, no question about it. But I never thought about how that must have looked, because I've watched, animals. I've watched, squirrels. I've watched, frogs and mice and spiders and all this stuff. And I may have marveled at it and thought, God's creation is really amazing. But I never thought, gosh, I'd like to try being one of them. Yet that is, again, exactly what Jesus did. He became one of us. That's what Christmas is all about. Christmas is just that awesome holiday where Parker buys expensive gifts for people, right?
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Summarize Christmas.
All right, yeah. See right there. It's just that without God becoming a person, and that's what he did. He looked from his high and lofty estate. He said, "I'm going to step down and be one of them," and I think that's pretty amazing. I think that's amazing, Parker.
Yeah.
So there you go. Parker agrees. So that must be right. Tim says, we used to have a solid black squirrel hanging out at our house. Yeah, those are, I think they're ground squirrels, aren't they? Or it was just, no? The ground squirrels are the ones that don't have a tail. Is that right?
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It's not as long.
Right. So, yeah, so a solid black squirrel hanging out at your house. Susan has a squirrel at her house that likes to empty out her bird feeder and makes her really angry. And Suze, if you would like to make a comment on that, please feel free to do so if you want to vent some of your frustration at the squirrel. But that's what the incarnation is. That's what Christmas is all about. It's about God looking at us and saying, this guy is special and that guy is so special that we want to come down and be a part of that situation. That's exactly what he did. And if you think about it, it doesn't work any other way. I mean, the whole Christianity is nothing without God saying, I'm going to make the first step. Because try as we might, you can read all the Old Testament you want. I mean, we're doing Hosea on Sunday morning and read all about what was going on in the Old Testament. Nothing worked, got God and people back together until God made the step to come our way. And it would be, the whole thing would be irrelevant without that. What we got here? Susan says, no lie. Yes, no lie. Fattest squirrel you ever saw. Hey, Val McAllister, good to see you tonight. Hi, Linda. Linda's chipmunks. Chipmunks don't normally tear up bird feeders so much, but boy, they'll chew the heck out of any wood you have in your house, chew up your lawn furniture, chew up your whatever. They're pretty destructive in that way. Okay. All right. So color phase of a gray squirrel. You went squirrel hunting. Hey, Scott, did you get any squirrels? Because if you didn't and you want one, Susan has one she'd like to point out at her house. Just saying. All right. Didn't get any. Hey, Suze, if you want to talk to Scott Moran about hunting at your house, I'll be happy to get you guys together. Okay. All right. Let's take this a step farther. I'm skipping over now to page 26. Now, if you think about it, okay, so we all can appreciate the fact that God took a tremendous step, okay, to go from God to one of us, with all the limitations, all the fleshly stuff, the bad hearing, the sore knees, the poor eyesight, the being hungry, being tired, and all that stuff. Jesus was willing to step into our situation and do that. He did it though. He talks about on page 26. He took all those limitations and he did all that stuff to step into our situation, but he did it joyfully. And I'm trying to think of a time in my life, I'm thinking about just this year alone, 2020. You got all the obvious stuff that went on. You've got, there were wildfires in Australia. Anybody remember that? That was like back in January. And then we had, COVID started in mid-February, and by March, the whole world was shut down. And then, the election now, I can't turn on my TV without getting angry about something. And then in my own personal life, I had back in July, like late June, early July, I had an abscessed tooth. I mean, you want to talk about something that's ridiculously painful. It was awful. I couldn't even hardly breathe. It was so bad. So I had that. Then I had the adhesion, which you all know about. And then I decided last Friday, since I hadn't had anything bad happen for like a month, I stuck my finger in a hedge trimmer and I had to go get 7 stitches in the end of my finger. Y'all see that? Isn't that nice? So those are the kind of things that happen when you live in this world, right, Parker?
Yeah,
Parker,
happens all the time.
Don't Parker, do not stick your finger in a hedge trimmer. That's going to be that's something that I learned. Please learn from my bad example.
I'll take note.
Good. And but that's the idea, is these bad things happen and fall apart. That's the world Jesus stepped into. And I got to tell you, all of my trips to the emergency room this year, and there's been a lot of them, I have not been joyful. In fact, true story. There was a guy at the emergency room when I was there, and they wouldn't let me go to the emergency room. They actually sent me over to urgent care down at the hospital down here. I'm sitting there waiting. I have an entire roll of toilet paper in my hand. I have bled clear through it. So blood is about to start dripping on the floor. And I'm waiting to get back so I can get stitches. And there's a guy in front of me that I have to, who said he ate a piece of cheese and it made his throat hurt and he has to go back before. My thought was, I still have one good hand. I'm going to punch you in the throat so that you have a reason to be here. Because Pastor Tim was not feeling very Christian while he was at the ER. I'm just being real with you. You ever been very Christian at the ER, Parker?
Sometimes not so much.
Sometimes not so much. And throat punching people is not the Christian thing to do ever. And I'm proud to say I didn't do it, even though I wanted to. But, again, those are the kind of problems we run into in this world. And that's what Jesus came to. And he ran into a lot of problems while he was here and a lot of hardships. And he wept over Jerusalem. He had his heart broken when Lazarus died. He was hungry and thirsty when he was out in the wilderness and Satan was coming against him. He knew the disappointment of his best friend Peter going, Jesus who? I don't know nobody named Jesus, right? I mean, that's got to break your heart. I wouldn't be very happy if Parker was like, Pastor Tim, Pastor Don. That would be hard. Especially since I have video evidence that we know each other. So he can't ever do that now, which is why I invited him to be on this live stream tonight. Yeah, I can't deny it now, buddy. He's out there. So, and so he experienced all of those emotions, stuff that we deal with all the time. He dealt with, and he did it joyfully. And, Tim Dickey also giving some more life advice here. Says, do not put electric cords in hedge trimmers. Because it will not only ruin your cord, it will trip the breaker and ruin your hedge trimmer. So hedge trimmers are very, very dangerous. Always use them with 2 hands. Don't try to push things around, put it down and do that. And I learned that lesson the hard way. So, but Jesus came joyfully. And I fully admit that there's been times when during some of my recent experiences, I wasn't exactly joyful. And I think, I bet once in a while even Parker's in a bad mood. Parker, you ever been in a bad mood?
I get in some bad moods.
Were you in a bad mood today at any point?
Yep.
Do you want to share or you want to just?
School math class, algebra 2 is not.
Oh yeah, algebra 2
is not the best.
Yeah. If you think that algebra 2 is something worth being angry over, give Parker a what up in the comments. If anybody thinks algebra 2 should not be inflicted upon people, I want you to give that a what up in the comments. So we're going to be watching for those. So that's another reason why being Christian. Okay. All right. We got 2 what ups here for you. Matt says that's another reason why being Christian is not easy. It is not easy, Matt. You're right, especially when life don't go the way it should go. I'm not even talking about the way we want it to go. It doesn't go the way it should go, and that can be bad feeling inspiring. So, all right. So, of course, Susan says math is super fun. She was also a math major at Ohio Northern. I'm just throwing it out there. Candy says she loves algebra. Okay, well, apparently Candy and Parker will not be able to talk anymore. So because Parker algebra 2 makes Parker in a bad mood. So all right. So full of joy, and that's where I'm at. And if you're following along in the book, I'm on page 26. And here I got a question for you. Okay, here's the thing, and I'm going to read this the way Max says it because nobody says things the way Max Lucado does. He says, when he was full of joy, according to Luke 10:21, his joy was authentic. Authentic is a big word. Because we're going to come back to that. When he wept for Jerusalem, his tears were as real as yours or mine. When he asked, how long must I put up with you? His frustration was honest. When he cried out from the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? He needed an answer. And those are just 4 examples of we could, in fact, I sat here and cited a couple more. But that was authentic. See, one of the early heresies of the church that actually the Gospel of John was trying to address is the fact that Jesus only appeared to be a person. He only looked like a guy. He was acting. Jesus was like an Academy Award winner. The crucifixion was no big thing. Getting nails run through your hands and feet. It didn't really bother him that much. When he was crying about Lazarus, he was just putting on a show for everyone there. He wasn't really a person. Honestly, I mean, that kind of takes all the air out of the gospel, really. And that's what the point that Max is making is all these emotions, all of these fears, all these problems, they were legit. They were real, because if they weren't, then God is a faker. And I don't what do you think about God as a faker, Parker?
No, don't really think that's a true statement.
Definitely not into that. So we don't want God as a faker, because that, I mean, if he's faking that, then what else is he faking? That gets to be a very frightening proposition. So, sometimes we think about God, especially when things are not going well. Like we're either in algebra 2 class, or we're just put our finger in a hedge trimmer and you're trying to figure out how to get your keys off the back porch without bleeding all over the floor. Not a fun activity either. And we think about all these things, and we think that God is, taking a day off, or is not personally affected, doesn't care. I mean, we've all been there. Times when things are going wrong, and we're like, God, what? Why this? We've all had that kind of impulse to think that. And what Max is saying is that's not how it works. God has the potential to weep with us when we weep. He has the potential to celebrate with us when we're happy. He has the potential to be proud of us when things go well. He has the potential to be disappointed in us when things don't go well, because there's a reason why. And this section to me speaks this very loudly. There's a reason why whenever we talk about our arrangement with God, the word we always use is relationship language. And the reason is because it is a relationship, and relationships, as you all well know, require work from both sides, require effort from both sides, are beneficial for both sides. And God is looking for that kind of thing with us. And if you've ever tried to have a relationship with somebody who's fake, and we've all got sucked into that at one time or another, and all of a sudden you realize there's nothing legitimate about what you're experiencing, that's really hard, because you start wondering how much of this is real and how much of it isn't. And again, I promise we're not going to go down this road. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole too far. But I'm thinking about that. Any of you who've watched any of the confirmation hearings for Amy Coney Barrett, there's been a lot of fake outrage. Oh my word, she's Catholic and she has bunches of kids. And today somebody asked her if she was a white supremacist. She adopted 2 children from Haiti. I mean, come on. So this fake outrage, I mean, politicians, they are the best at it. And that's why we all have to sit back and laugh at it, because it is truly, what's the word I'm looking for, Parker? Ridiculous?
Embarrassing.
Embarrassing is a good word also. So and that's kind of where people are. And you know, whether you agree with this appointment or not, that's not the point here. It's just the you know, everybody's standing there with a lighter in their hand saying, I am ready to set my hair on fire at a moment's notice. I mean, that's just exactly what this is. And Jesus, thank God, was not like that. That was not Jesus. When he was angry at the Pharisees, it wasn't a show. He was mad. And when he was kicking the tables over, he wasn't a show. He was mad. And when he looked at Jerusalem and he wept and said, there's got to be something, he was truly brokenhearted. When he stood outside of Lazarus' tomb and wept, I mean, that wasn't, it wasn't that he didn't care. That was sincere. And God is nothing if not sincere. And I think that sincerity is what gives the gospel its power. Because if it was a show, if it was a play, if it was a fake, if it, you know, it doesn't mean anything then. You know, it'd be like watching a movie where, you know, at the end of the action sequence, the director yells cut and everybody stands up, you know, and that's not how it is. Okay. Maxine goes on later there on page 26 to talk about Paul's line from Philippians, where it talks about Jesus took on the very nature of a servant. Again, we know that, you know, taking the nature of a servant by that statement, you know, he stepped down to our level so he could be in service to us. And that's kind of how that works. He entered the world not to demand our allegiance, but to display his affection, which I thought was a great word. You know, if he just wanted to demand our allegiance, why leave heaven? Might as well stay up there, right? I mean, that's far more impressive than crying at Lazarus' tomb would be, you know, parting the Red Sea. So if allegiance was what he was looking for, that's the route he should have went. But clearly that's not what his intentions were. His intentions were to look us in the eye, you know, just like Parker and I are here, you know, eye level. And that's what he was looking for, not this kind of lording over somebody. Scott says we were created in his image, emotions and all. And I firmly believe that because look, there is no possible way to explain the fact that we have the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in our Bibles. There's no way to explain their existence other than to say God was motivated by something completely irrational. And the most irrational emotion in the whole range of emotions is love. Nothing will make you do crazier things than love. And you know, back when sports used to be a thing, you know, the Rough Riders used to be a thing. You've seen this, haven't you? You got what's it called? The Cowbell Mafia?
Yep.
I mean, is there anything besides a St. Mary's Rough Riders football game where we could have anything known as the Cowbell Mafia and not be afraid of it than at a football game? Really? Can you think of any place? Could you imagine if we went to church and we had the Cowbell Mafia? Yeah. Pastor Tim would probably be calling the police. So, yeah.
It's a new bell choir.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, but you know, because of our love of the Rough Riders, we do that stuff. And everybody's like, man, that's so cool. But there's literally no other way you could have the Cowbell Mafia. That's right, Matt. They are scary fellas. You better believe it. There's no other way the Cowbell Mafia would make sense other than great love. So love will make us do some crazy stuff and make us do things that we are like, you know, what was I thinking when I was doing this? And because it is the most irrational of emotions. And, you know, you think about people who go to, you know, see the Buckeyes play back when they used to play football and they paint their faces and they all look like Brutus the Buckeye and stuff. Again, somebody shows up here on Sunday morning dressed like Brutus the Buckeye, and I'm going to send Parker over to talk to them to find out why they're here because I'm going to be concerned. Where at the Horseshoe down in Columbus, nobody thinks of it. Again, I cannot believe I'm going to use this as an example, but here it is. That's exactly what Jesus did. He did something completely irrational. He stepped away from heaven to become a man, just like Parker, just like me, and come into our situation in such a way that changed the world for the better. Again, doesn't work without it. Gospel doesn't work without that. And that's why it was so important. And I'm sorry, Matt Clemens, did you say 10 days away, go Bucks? Are they playing football this year?
Yeah, they're back on. Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Where have I been? I didn't even know. So please, all people from St. Mary's who now want to fire me for not knowing the Buckeyes play football, my sincerest apologies. That's why I have Parker here, because he knows the important stuff. I'm just talking about Jesus. He's talking about the Buckeyes. That's why we love Parker. So, but yeah. Val says, so Seth shouldn't wear the Rocky costume to church. That would be weird. It would be weird if anybody other than Seth did it. But if Seth did it, I would just think that that's just what Seth does. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't even seem weird if Seth did it. So I'm really hoping he does. And I hope that Parker's not sitting behind him. So, all right. Cool. All right. So we're making great time here, guys. And agree. Oh, okay. We got a couple different threads going here. Tim says Matt Clements agrees. I'm not sure which one you're agreeing with, Matt, but thank you for agreeing. Tim Dickey says demanding allegiance does. I assume you mean does not always work anyways. It absolutely does not. The worst way to get somebody to be devoted to you is to demand it. That never works. You can make people be afraid of you. You can get them to do what you want, or sometimes get them to do what you want you to do. If you intimidate them, I mean, if I wanted people to give more to the church, and I had Parker come in with a baseball bat, start threatening people if they don't give more, that would probably work. But I don't know how happy anybody would be with that. Except for, I don't know, maybe Jess would be happy that she got a raise because Parker was shaking people down for money. I don't know, but I doubt many people would be happy and not calling the district superintendent saying there's a lunatic with a baseball bat at the church. I mean, I can see that being a problem. So, but that's what it is. Demanding allegiance, you're right, Tim, never works. You can demand attention. You can demand, like shake people down and whatever. But as far as having a relationship with them, that works 0% of the time. Never works. And the reason it doesn't work is because a relationship is reciprocal. And there's no reciprocal when one person is threatening the other. And King Avenue United Methodist Church by the main campus used to play an OSU medley on their Are you serious? On their big organ after football Saturdays? Matt, I did not know that. King Avenue has some very interesting practices down there in Columbus too. So, yeah, Parker, Matt Dyer, he was my best friend from high school. Yeah, he and I raised all kinds of cane over around Hardin County, and you know what I am. Well, he's a state highway patrolman, just because that's how weird the world is now. But yeah. And Matt and I crushed a lot of Nintendo games. Do you even remember Nintendo?
Oh, yeah, I know Nintendo.
Yeah. Like Contra? Yeah, 25 years ago. That's right. That's right. Parker, not even born yet. But, yeah, that makes you feel so young and vital and awesome. So, yeah. But, yeah, so, Matt, I'm glad you logged on here tonight, buddy. In fact, in honor of Matt Dyer, I have in my living room, or my, main interest in my house, I have they had a thing at Walmart. They were selling video game consoles of the game Final Fight. Matt, I would hate to think how many quarters he and I fed to that game. It was at Ohio Northern. We'd go over and play it, and I now have it at my house. And every so often I fire it up and, run around punching people in the face in honor of my buddy Matt Dyer. So I have no idea why I shared that story, but there you go. Yeah. Tim says, it'd be like holding a gun to someone's head and demand that they love you. Parker, do you think that'd work?
Nope.
Okay.
They'll say it that they love you, but that's just so you don't take any action upon it.
That's right.
The gift of free will that God gave us.
Yep. Without free will, there is no love, period. So Parker, if you find a young lady that you're interested in, please do not hold her at gunpoint.
Yeah.
Parker's getting a lot of good free advice tonight by being here. I'm glad he showed up. So, yeah. Yeah. Matt Clements wants to play. Yeah, come by, man. We could punch a bunch of people in the face. Matt Clements, you're probably old enough to remember Final Fight. Are you old enough to remember Final Fight? The old arcade game. It was on the Super Nintendo too. So, all right. We are suffering from a little ADD on the live stream tonight, so I hope you all are still with us. Okay. All right. Let's turn the page here. All right, I'm over to page 27. Okay, this is great. This is a great section here. All right, let me read this again straight from Max because Max says it better than everyone else. Max says, wouldn't his, meaning Jesus, wouldn't his lack of understanding keep us from him? Doesn't the lack of understanding keep us from others? Now listen to this analogy. Parker, listen to this analogy, and we're going to have you give your detailed analysis here, okay? Right. He says, suppose you were discouraged because of your financial state. and you needed some guidance from a sympathetic friend, would you go to the son of a zillionaire? Now, remember, you're asking for guidance, not a handout. Would you approach someone who inherited a fortune if you were having financial problems? Would you?
No way.
Why not?
They had it handed to them. There's no option for you to get money handed to you like that.
Okay.
So you don't want to go over there and just be like, oh, well, just get the money is what their advice would probably be, and not the actions of how to get the money to get out of your financial standing.
Parker makes an excellent point here, and he's 100% correct. The problem is that people who don't work for things don't appreciate what they are. I mean, I can remember, in high school, you could always tell the kids who worked and bought their own car and the kids who had mom and dad buy the car for them. Because kids who worked and bought their own car, there was no trash in the car. They weren't as nice as the other cars, but they were well taken care of. And right now I'm driving a car right now that's older than Parker, and I'm not even making it up. That is true. What year were you born?
2003.
Yep, my car was made in 2000. My car is 3 years older than Parker. So I have great appreciation for that car because I was able to pay cash for it, which I'm sure no one finds surprising. I didn't pay much cash for it. But you also know the Beetle as the single most recognizable vehicle in St. Mary's. People know that car everywhere. I love that car dearly. Runs like a beast, and is a beast. Let's just be honest. But I have great appreciation for that car because it's mine. I paid for it, and I love that car. And if I would have had that car given to me for some reason, I years ago probably would have said 20-year-old car. Who wants to drive a 20-year-old car? And I probably would be upgraded to something else by now. But because that car was one of the first things I bought that I was able to pay outright for and just have during a time in my life when things were absolutely falling apart. I was living in the middle of a hurricane, and I ended up with the Beetle, and I appreciate that car a lot more because it's something that I was able to get. And I think that's the same thing with Jesus. If we were looking at Jesus and Jesus didn't know some of these things, Jesus had never known a bad day, never known pain, never known separation, never known rejection, never known any of these things. If Jesus would have went through his whole life and never known any of that stuff, what would we pray about? What would be the purpose of that? Because again, it'd be like somebody asking me, let's see, what's something like that? Asking my advice on hang gliding. Do not take my advice on hang gliding. Parker, do you know why you should never take my advice on hang gliding?
Why is that?
Because I have never been hang gliding before. And if I give you advice, it's not going to go well for you. In fact, if you want to live through hang gliding, do not take my advice. Hey, Jan, glad that you're here. And Tim says the Beetle is what they call a chick magnet. No kidding. No kidding. Who doesn't love a 20-year-old Volkswagen? I'm telling you that right now. So, but yeah, again, and if God was a God who was always in heaven, always had the angels singing, always had the great heavenly host and the chorus and all this stuff, what would we pray about? I mean, what would God know about, putting your finger in a hedge trimmer? Well, what would God know about that if he hadn't been a part of this world to know what it feels like to lose the end of your finger? I mean, that's that. And because of the experiences of the gospel, we know that Jesus can identify with us, and he set that up on purpose. He went through all that so that he would know what it was like to be in our place. Because again, and Parker was 100% correct. The last person you want to go to for financial advice is the person who inherited their money, because they don't know anything about it. They don't know where it came from. They don't know what it took to get it. They don't know anything. I'm very glad to say that Susan agrees with Tim Dickey. So I'm very, very happy to see that. So thanks, Suze. So, all right. Okay. All right. I'm going to move on to the next question I got here. I'm moving over to page. What in the world? Page 28. Page 28. Max writes this sentence. He says, and what the question he's addressing is why. I mean, you think about our heroes. None of us would want Captain America. If any of you ever seen the Captain America movie, he goes from this scrawny little guy and he has this procedure. And he ends up, being buff and huge and superhero and all that stuff. If the whole movie would have been about scrawny Steve Rogers, we probably wouldn't care about the story because he would be dead probably before the whole thing got started. We don't care. We don't want our heroes, like Captain America. We don't want Batman who's overweight. We don't want a Superman who can't fly. And the reason we don't want these things is because we're not interested in we're interested in being larger than life. That's why we love these stories. Why I love them. It's why if you look right up there, what do y'all see? You see the bat symbol right up there, and that's what we all love. And the reason we love that is because they're bigger than we are. So that's why if we allow God to be distant, if we allow Jesus to be, out there somewhere in the heavenly host or out doing their own thing, if we allow that to stand, then God becomes very detached. Just like a movie star. I mean, look, as much as I love Captain America and as many t-shirts as I have and stuff that I have around, I am never going to get into a bind and say, I hope Captain America comes and saves me, because first, I'm not insane, and second, I know he's a fictional character. Because the character is detached, not real. And that's the point he's making about Jesus is if we allow Jesus to stay the person that's in heaven, sitting on the throne, everything going great, he's very detached. He loses a lot of his divinity. He loses a lot of the chance that we have to identify with him because he's not a part of our situation. And you're getting another shout out. Jan Moran is giving you a shout out. And hey, Scott, wonder what Jesus said when he smashed his thumb with a hammer. I don't know that I should say that on this live stream, but I think you all can fill in the blank there because all of us have smashed a finger at one time or another. But that's what it is. And I think the detached part of God allows God to be out there somewhere, out there doing his thing, whatever that is. But it doesn't give me any accountability. It doesn't give me any reason to identify with him. It doesn't give us any reason to embrace him as our Lord, because there's no connection and there's no relationship. And Christianity is essentially about a relationship with God. That's why we talk about it all the time. And we think that's very important. So, all right, I got one more point here that I'm going to make, and then we're going to open it up, and Parker is going to answer all of your questions. So be thinking about this while I make my last point, and jump in the comments and ask Parker a deep, grueling theological question. And he is going to reach in his great wealth and knowledge, and he is going to just wow you with the clarity and super function of his answer, okay? So be thinking about that, and only hard questions accepted. If they're easy, I'm going to skip them. So, all right. So the last thing that I want to put out here before we turn this over and talk with Parker here a little bit is the very last paragraph, which I'm going to read to you, okay? Max says, the first moment of transformation went unnoticed by the world. Okay. And remember, the first moment of transformation was Christmas. The first, when Jesus transformed from the Son of God to Mary's son, Mary and Joseph's son down in the barn. That moment went essentially unnoticed. Even though, the angels were singing and the star was there and the wise men were coming and the shepherds were coming along. Even though all that stuff, somehow everyone else seemed to miss. And this is the part that always gets me. Bethlehem, I get this, Parker. Okay. Bethlehem was so full. The town was so packed full that a 9 or 8 month, 3 week, 6 day pregnant woman, they didn't have room for her. That is a full town. Would you agree?
Yeah.
That's pretty full. If we don't have enough room for a very, very pregnant woman, that's pretty full. So that town was that full. And in the same gospel, how did the shepherds get there? You remember how the shepherds got there? What called them? Remember?
The star.
That was the wise men.
The shepherds.
Shepherds came by the angels.
Yeah.
Okay. So singing angels in the sky above a town that was so full they didn't have room for a pregnant lady, and only a couple of shepherds saw it. That's a lot of people not paying attention. So that event went largely unnoticed. Okay. Max says, the second one won't. The next time you use the phrase just a moment, remember that's all the time it will take to change the world. Happen in the moment. Remember from Thessalonians? Happen in the moment, in the blinking of the eye, when the final trumpet sounds, all the elements of this world will pass away, and we will move on into a far better plane. New heaven and new earth. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And a lot of times we talk about the rapture and we talk about the end of the world and everybody gets all freaked out and scared. Earthquakes, fire, brimstone. Yeah, the very first book of the New Testament that was written was 1 Thessalonians. There's a trivia question for you. 1 Thessalonians, first book of the New Testament written. And it was about that's where the writing I'm quoting is coming from. And the final words that Paul says about the end of the world are, get these words, Parker, ready? Therefore, encourage each other with these words. Anytime somebody uses the concept of Christ's return to scare you, they're doing it wrong, according to the Apostle Paul himself. So the idea that Jesus is coming back is not meant to be scary. It's not meant to be something we're going to beat each other over the head with. It is meant to be something that we can be encouraged by, that we have not been abandoned, that we have not been left behind, and none of those stuff. Christ is coming back just like he, in a whole different way, but he's returning just like the first time he came to seek out relationships with people. And that's an important thing to keep in mind because that's a very encouraging word. Parker, would you agree?
Yeah.
Cool.
100%.
All right. So we have 19 minutes. How in the heck did I get through this so fast? All right. So we have a chance for you to now pick the brain of the resident theologian of Auglaize County, the righteous Reverend Parker Miley. So, and I think we have our first question. I'm going to read it, and I will decide if it rises to the level of challenge for our young theologian before I allow him to answer. All right, so Tim Dickey wants to know, and get your questions in here, guys. Come on, ask Parker something. God being omniscient. Can you spell omniscient, Parker?
No way.
No way. All right, good. That's honest. Boys honest. We love that. God being omniscient, he probably already knew what it was like to be human, but it makes it easier for us to understand and identify knowing that he experienced it with us. I missed the question in that statement, Tim, so I guess we'll agree. Will we agree with that?
Agreed.
Okay, all right, cool.
Agreed.
Agree, definitely. And if you use a word like omniscient, you get bonus points. So bonus points. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. So he already knew what it was like to be human, but we can identify with him. And honestly, is that not what the gospel is all about? It's about us identifying with Christ, and I think that's what he gave us to do.
What is it called? The sovereignty. It's like, what is the God knows all before it would even happen? It is like what is it? Isn't it like the
sovereign?
it's a big Calvinist thing. It's what is it? It's like
the predestination thing.
Predestination, like he already knows everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But having the examples of Christ flipping the tables is what really makes us relate, because we all want to flip tables every once in a while.
Yeah. I'd like to flip tables. I've been in a few meetings through the years where I wanted to flip some tables.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In fact, I was in the emergency room not 5 days ago where I wanted to flip some tables. I wanted to flip some other stuff too, but I decided not to. So, all right, you guys are kind of letting me down here on these questions. I mean, Parker. I mean, you guys got the expert here, and maybe you guys have been in my live streams long enough now that you already know everything.
How did you think I became a theological expert?
Not by watching these live streams. I know that. And Tim, be nice. You guys are the ones being nice, not me. Oh my goodness! All right, you ready, Parker? Parker's got this one. Ready?
Okay, this is a good one.
Tim Dickey would like to know, Parker, why are many young people your age turning away from the church?
Church has become either you're great with youth or you're only with the older generation. So the young people, at least in this town, I will comment on how Wayne Street's great. We have our second service, great for drawing in younger people. Funny how I go to first service though, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But a lot of towns like ours do not. We have the outreach for Christ has vanished in the younger population. It is turning away from authority. You open up the first book of the Bible in Genesis, and all you get is law, a lot of law. And that will push people away like crazy because they can't reach to the second part of the entire Bible. That is the great grace that God has given us, to where those laws can be broken, but we have our Creator to save us and be our Savior. That's what He is. And a lot of people don't see that. They don't want to have to follow under those rules. They don't want to. They don't see the benefits that come with it. They see that, I have to do this boring way of life. I think being a Christian is the most exciting life you can live. Mm-hmm. I mean, like Tim mentioned, about the rapture, like looking forward, there's so much more to come. And I have so much history built with the Bible and everything else that you join this family. It's exciting, but people don't see the excitement. People see it being boring. I don't want to give up an hour on my Sunday to come listen to a message. It's a lot of it. People see it being way worse for their scenario than being a benefit.
All right. Well, here we go. So
Right.
we're gonna let this guy take it on here. Okay. So you got
because first service is cool. That is true.
Yeah.
First service is the best.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, you guys, you got the expert here. Who else got a question for him? You guys are going. Look, whenever I put this out there, you guys are asking me like all this crazy stuff. Oh, here we go. Parker, prediction of the outcome. Are you
Final
serious?
score.
Are you serious? Beth wants to know the final prediction of the St. Mary's Franklin game. Final score. What do you say, Parker?
It might be a close game.
Okay.
But we'll come out on top.
Well,
do I know the score?
Course.
Do I know the score? I don't really know.
Parker, you're letting your fans down.
It's hard. It's hard to give a score out.
Okay, you think you're going to win by more or less than one touchdown?
More.
Okay, more than one touchdown. Okay.
More.
So you're going to go 28-12?
Yep.
28-12.
That sounds good.
You heard it here, folks. 28-12. So if it turns out to be that, I'm going to freak out. But yeah.
That's a work of God if it turns out to be like that.
Yeah. So young people aren't being raised to know the Bible. Parents don't take the time to read Bible stories.
Bible's been one of the most pushed away books. I bring my Bible to school, and when I open it and read it in class during like free time, I am looked as a psychopath because I am reading this book that people have just pushed away. See, and the problem is a lot of people think that the Bible is written in this King James archaic language that they could not ever understand. Mm-hmm. So they just don't even care to open up the first passage. Mm-hmm. And it's just I don't want to call it laziness, but it kind of falls back on that. How no one has the will to see what it's all about. The first part is, getting interested, like evangelism is not just a one-way thing where some person comes up and tells you the story of salvation and you're saved. You have to act upon it, but no one wants to act upon it. It's not that people don't know how to act upon it. I mean, I'm sure obviously in everyone's family, there's got to be one Christian. I feel like I could say that in a distance, not maybe your personal relatives, but you've come across some of us. And we normally will give you how it works, but they will not feel willing enough to go out and do it. They don't see their outcome. They don't see their benefit. And it's sad. It makes me very disappointed to see how many people are just too lazy to pick up the Bible and read it and understand it, because that's the biggest part. Mm-hmm. Understanding the church and how we're supposed to work and how the righteousness of God is supposed to flow through us is all in that book. Yet so many people just push it away because that's old. I don't want to be reading the these and thous. Mm-hmm. I don't know that. Or they'll read a verse like John 3:16 and think they've read the whole thing. Yep. And that's another big problem why young people are pushing away the Bible like that, just because
it's a lot of laziness and they don't take time to really dig into it.
Yeah.
All right, you ready for another one here? Candy Dickey asked the question I was waiting for. How many angels can dance on the head of a pin?
I'm only going to say on a head of a pin. Mm-hmm. Let's go. I think it's 7.5.
7.5. You got
7.5 is the best number.
For 3,000 years, we've been trying to figure that out. Parker just nailed it. All right, 7.5. So, all right. Matt Clements says, "Go Riders." That's right. We're here. Go Riders. Doug says, some are looking for the easy way to go through life, but they'll lose it all if they're not careful. Yes. Yeah, the path of least resistance is never the way you want to go.
And that's a
common choice.
On the message I gave last Sunday, I talked about how the breastplate would shine in the light of the sun. And that's why I strive to allow people to see Christ within you. That should be your goal. When you're walking in town and when you're walking around, you would want to have people see that person's got something about them that I don't have. Mm-hmm. And that's the best evangelism I think you can do, especially right now.
Well, I think that leads into Matt's next question. He says, What are your thoughts on Christian athletes?
Um,
Now, I'm assuming you mean like professional athletes. I'm not sure, or FCA. I'm not sure which way he's going.
Professional, like if you're talking about like the professional level, like giving thanks to God, I'm a little tripped up on that one.
I think that sports. I think sports is losing the influence it used to have. But we'll take any good influence we can get because there's enough bad.
I'll never say God is on a side of someone's football team or on the side. God is for the individual, and He will bless them through many things. But I think a lot of people get caught up saying God is so involved in sports, and that's a bad way to think. That kind of can destroy your theology and your relationship with God pretty quick if you only think you can find God in your sports.
Yeah, the part of that I always struggle with was when they're talking about God being involved in the sports, and then you got somebody whose family member just died, and they're like, "Well, God was at the football game," and that's a difficult way to go.
Like praying at the end of the games, we don't pray for a win, we don't pray for any of those things. We pray for the health of the players and for them to carry on the competition in a godly, respected manner. Sportsmanship is a big part, and that's a great way to teach Christian values is through sports. I think it's great if you can teach the gospel through a sport, do it. If you can teach the gospel through anything, do it.
Yep.
Because if that's the way you can relate, that's the best way you can learn it.
Yep. Well, Val McAllister says, if we had more youth like you, Seth, and Lucy Spencer, this world would be amazing. God bless you. Don't ever stop standing for what you believe.
Thank you very much.
I couldn't agree more. Jan Parker, what do you say to single mothers who are struggling with raising their children for loving God? There's a question.
Well, if you're a single mother, I mean, the only thing I think you could rely on is God. It's a matter of importance in emphasizing how Christ was like, and how his life was. He that's tricky. Raising a child on yourself, you would need God. God would need to be the next person in that relationship to raise a child, and that's the only thing you could turn to.
Yep. The only thing I would add to that is to say Jesus himself was a raised by a single mother, and he turned out pretty good. So, yep. Matt says some people pick the parts of the Bible they like and skip the parts they don't. Matt, you and I know a lot about that.
I still cannot say I've read the entire book of
Leviticus.
Leviticus. I cannot say I've read the whole thing.
Yeah. Leviticus is super fun. Yep.
You just sleep right.
Yeah. You can't eat pork chops, but you can eat grasshoppers. I never quite understood that. And I think I typed that wrong. Teaching the love. Yeah, no, Jan, we got it. You're good. Matt Clemens says you nailed it, Parker. I mean, Matt Clemens says you nailed it. You nailed it. So, I mean, there you go. So, all right, guys. We got time for – actually, we got a few minutes yet. So, when did Jesus realize he was God? I think this question came up one other time we were talking about this. So, I would say Jesus, in my opinion, never didn't know he was God.
Yeah, I think Jesus knew he was God from the conception. He knew he was here on earth, and he knew he was different than everyone else. And I think he knew that from day one of the start. It didn't take the dove descending down upon him to where he became the Son of God. He knew he was sent here. All starts with the birth, and that's.
Well, even when Mary and Joseph couldn't find Jesus, and he was in the temple, and he's like, "Didn't you know I was in my Father's home?" I think 12 years old. I think he clearly had a grasp on who he was. Grasshoppers are very nutritional. Tim Dickey said that. Neither one of us have advocated for that. I just want to be clear about that.
I will advocate for that. We did a cricket feast for FFA. Cricket is the new protein source for the future.
Okay, I just lost a little respect for Parker, but there it is. I guess
cricket flour, cricket cookies.
Are you serious with this?
I'm not. No, it's it's like third world countries. Crickets, if you can get crickets, a little risky to eat, but insects are a huge source of protein. You gotta find some way to feed the world.
All right. Here's a good question from my friend Matt. If you could meet one person from the Bible besides Jesus, who would it be?
Besides Jesus, who would it be? That's a tough question.
That is a tough one.
Oh man. what was stories? If I could go back to a scene, I would love to go to David and Lions Den, right?
Mm-hmm.
Daniel, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Mm-hmm.
That I would love to live that out.
Okay.
So I guess I would like to be in that scene, but if it was just meeting one person, I couldn't pick. I couldn't pick out one.
If I was going to meet one person, I would say Nehemiah. I've always admired Nehemiah because he's one of the great biblical leaders. Like, hey, we're building a wall, and I don't care what you guys do, we're building it anyways. So, okay. If Jesus came, Tim Dickey wants to know, if Jesus came back today, how would he be treated?
How would he be treated?
He would be the most politically incorrect of all the isms and all that stuff. I think he'd be accused of all of it. What do you think?
Probably worse than how it was back then.
Yeah.
Just because so many people there's a lot of people out there who just hate Christ for no reason. They see what we stand for and see what we say, and that's just the wicked of the world. The devil has taken a lot of control in the world, and it'd be an attack. When Christ returns, there would be a lot of conflict.
Yeah,
lot of conflict.
I agree. Let's see here. Jan says, nice, good. Angie says, how would you reach the youth to get them to come back to church?
The youth to get them, sharing them. I mean, there's a lot of people share the message of salvation in a lot of different ways. I hinted at this when I brought up like FCA. If you're a sports person and you can find Christ and his salvation and his blessings he has bestowed upon this world in sports, that's the way to do it. You can't stick with one path and think you can save them all. You have to reach out. You have to connect. It's all about relationships with people too,
especially young people.
It's you have to build that relationship, and it's a matter of talking. You cannot be preaching to a young person. You got to talk it out. I mean, youth group. That's why a youth group is great, because it's not so much someone delivering a sermon. It's conversations. You're having a conversation and discussing why I should believe the way I believe, or why I believe the way I believe. And that's what changes the person from being, I don't really know anything about that Christ guy. And then it changes them to be like, okay, that's what I stand for. That's why I believe in that. That's why I want to believe in that.
Yeah. Too much youth ministry is done at youth rather than with them.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Let's see here. Beth Reedy wants to know if there was a particular event or moment when you decided to dedicate your life to Christ.
I lost my great-grandparents when I was around 11 years old. They all went out around the same time. I did not attend church being younger. Like I was baptized, but life got busy and we just weren't able to make it Sundays. But when I attended the funeral services for them, I woke up and I realized, whoa, I'm missing a whole massive part of this life that I could be really doing something great in. And that's when Christ, I just felt it. I felt the Lord come down upon me, and it was just, Parker, you need to wake up. You need to you need to get back. You need to come back. It was like I was called back. I could almost picture, the best way I could explain it, attendance was being called, and I was sleeping during it. I had to get up, and it was very crazy, but I bless the Lord for doing it, because when I was young, I just watched all the seminars, I listened to all the sermons, I figured out what it was all about, and then I got involved.
Yep.
And that's kind of just my conversion story almost, how I came to love the Lord so much, and why it's so important to me to see other people that wake up from their, oh, I don't need it, oh, it's not that important, and see, I'm missing out.
Okay. All right. Amy wants to know, Parker, if Jesus were alive today and he came back to earth, what would he have done differently? Oh, there's an interesting question. Did he use social media? No.
No. He would obviously have to become more suitable to our society. Humility back then is way different from humility now. What would he have done differently? I mean, all the stories would change. You wouldn't have stumbling up on this one.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure how I would answer it either.
What would he have done differently? Well, God's perfect. Jesus is perfect.
Yeah,
he would find the way. There we go.
Whatever it was, it would have been right.
Whatever way, that's the right way.
Yeah. All right, Jan. What drove you to the love? I haven't done that yet, have I?
Yeah,
what drove you to the love of God, Parker? I think he kind of covered that one. Scott, disagree. Jesus returning as king. Yeah, he may return as king, but that doesn't mean there won't be controversy. And the world rejects authority, rejects leaders. So
authority is the biggest problem that drives people away from the church.
Absolutely, and so he may return as king, but I still think that people, and even in Revelation, we read about people still struggling with that. So, and Tim Dickey gets the last question. He says, Parker, was Judas actually a betrayer of Jesus, or was he simply playing out his part in the overall plan?
Oh, wow.
That's a
playing out his part. He didn't know he was playing out his part.
I agree with that.
I wouldn't say he knew he had a role he was fulfilling, but yeah, he was he in the moment, in the heat of the moment. Yeah, he betrayed Jesus. But does he look at it now and think, "Wow, was I a part of that greater understanding and plan?" Yeah, he had a purpose. Mm-hmm. That there was a reason he did that.
Now, let me ask you this: when he went to the Roman, or when he went to the guys and took the 30 pieces of silver, who did he think he was betraying? In that moment, not later. In that moment, who did he think he was betraying? Was he betraying the religious leaders and the Romans, or was he betraying Jesus? What do you think?
Well, he was taking their money.
Yeah.
So I would assume he thought he could get away from it.
Okay.
I think in the heat of the moment, he took it and he was like, "This ain't gonna happen."
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think you could. He was thinking, "Oh, I can escape. They're not going to get Jesus. There's no way they can do that."
Yep.
But
I think he felt like he was leading the Romans and the leaders into a trap.
I think he could just he took the silver thinking
mm-hmm.
it's not going to work out that way, but that was the plan. That is the plan. That's how it worked.
All right, everybody tell Parker why you love him so much. How can you not love this guy, right? And yeah, don't give me any credit, Jan. I appreciate that, but Parker's a special kid. So everybody get in here and give some love to Parker. Appreciate you guys hanging out here tonight. Appreciate Parker, who found out he was going to be the special guest on tonight's show. Exactly, what was it? 1 minute or 2 minutes before we started?
About a minute before.
Okay, yeah, about a minute before we started. He made the horrendous mistake of coming in my office at 7:58 to ask me a question, and now he's been here for an hour. So timing is everything, my friends, and never forget that. But we're going to be hearing more from Parker through the days and weeks to come, and everybody keep praying for him, because good Lord's got special plans for this kid, and we certainly appreciate the fact that we get to work with him. So look at all those good jobs you're getting there, Parker.
Thanks.
Look at him.
Thank you.
Just, we're going to never mind the fact that I spoke for 50 minutes before Parker started. We're just going to totally forget that, which is cool. I've got broad shoulders. I can handle it. So, but no, hey, I appreciate Parker being on with me. I appreciate all of you guys who are out tonight to be a part of this conversation. Parker and I both love you very much, and hope you guys have a great evening. And y'all know what you need to go do now. Parker, what do they need to do now? Remember?
Go wash your hands.
Go wash those hands, guys.